Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Real Talk with Rick. Today, I have a conversation with the city's forestry and natural resources specialist, Lauren Stufft, also known as our forester. Lauren talks about her education, what led her to Eden Prairie, and then she has a couple things. She's got a couple good stories about how she's dealt with questions that people have had regarding forestry, and she's also got some really good advice on different things that we can all do in terms of how we manage our yard, our property, our landscape, our own trees. So she's got some really good advice on that, and then she wraps up with sharing some of her own personal interests as well. So here is my conversation with City Forester Lauren Stufft. All right, Lauren, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Lauren, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are I'll say you're a forester. Your actual title is Forestry and Natural Resources Specialist, but you are our forester. We're going to talk a little bit about what that job is like here in Eden Prairie and how that works. And before we do that, I'd like to maybe know a little bit about maybe how you got to Eden Prairie. Maybe where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm from Plymouth, pretty close.
That's not far away.
Pretty close, no. It's not a long travel.
That's not. No, it's not. No. Are there still family in Plymouth?
Yeah, my parents. Yeah,
Okay.
Both of my. I mean, when they're not up north.
When they're not. Okay.
Yeah,
not up north.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school then? High school and then college.
Yeah, so I went to Wayzata High School, and then the U of M forestry school at St. Paul campus, which was really fun. Loved it there. So.
Yeah, that was when you say St. Paul campus, because that was on the other, what is it, the east side of Highway 280 near Falcon Heights.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It close, right near the State Fair.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
by
Close
the
to State Fair.
Yep.
So what got you thinking that you wanted to study that?
So, actually got into the U of M for business, international business, which is not forestry. Like, I don't even think remotely you could make that change. So
You could. Here's where I would tell you could do that. So my dad sold paper.
Okay.
So he would have been in business, and then he sold paper, but he had to know a lot about trees to sell paper. So you can make a connection, but you didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So my first, I guess, summer job was with City of Plymouth, actually.
Okay.
And I watered trees there when I was 18. After I had already gotten into school to do international business. And I worked with a lady who was kind of making her way out west. She's a forester out there now, and she was graduated from Purdue, and she was like telling me this whole world of natural resources that I didn't know existed. So I switched my major. Didn't tell my parents. They weren't super excited about that. And after first semester, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to be an urban forester. They're like, that sounds like a job you would never find. So there's not many of us, but
no, there aren't.
But urban forestry, yeah, that was my technical major.
So basically, it all occurred through summer job in the city of Plymouth.
Yeah,
that's where you kind of got the bug for this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then right away switched over to forestry.
Yeah.
Did you did you have other internships then, or other work while you were still in school then?
Yeah, I had like natural resource related work throughout all my college. So I worked for a professor my first freshman, I guess, summer, and we trained volunteers to do tree inventories. It was for a Emerald Ash Borer grant, Emerald Ash Borer preparedness grant. So we did that, and then I worked for a couple different tree companies, doing treatments like tree fungal treatments and stuff, working on pruning crews. So yeah, that was.
I suppose when you got into this, Emerald Ash Borer was already a thing.
Yeah.
Because I think what's interesting is when people think about Emerald Ash Borer, the feeling is it's only really been here in the last decade.
Right.
That it's, well, you're pretty young, so it probably was.
Right.
Like the the major infestations that came beforehand, you probably only had to study.
No, I only read about them.
The Dutch elm.
Yeah.
Dutch elm.
Yes.
Yeah, because Minneapolis, St. Paul, a lot of mature suburbs got hammered by that, but now today it's the emerald ash borer.
Right.
And so after school, then what was your first big job out of school then?
My first big kid job was working for City of St. Paul. So
Okay.
I worked there as a natural resource technician. I worked under the foresters there and did a lot of the field work, checking up on contractors, a lot of marking ash trees with EAB. So
What year would that have been roughly?
2011.
Yeah, because I remember when things hit in the metro, I could be wrong. I feel like they hit in St. Paul.
Oh, they
like
did.
St. Paul was one of
Yeah.
the early hot
Yeah,
spots.
it was the first. Yep, first area. Actually, right by the U of M St. Paul campus.
Well, that's suspicious.
Isn't it? Right.
That's suspicious. People studying forestry, all of a sudden infestation nearby. Also, if I remember, didn't St. Paul take the unique tactic of being very aggressive in removing trees before maybe some other cities did, or even the state?
Yeah, they removed a lot and they treated a lot pretty early. Yeah, Minneapolis has just gone with like straight removals. They didn't do any boulevard treatments, so we had a little bit of both there. So
Sure. But that's good experience right
it was
out of
great.
school.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I loved it there. It was really helpful, and there was so much. With EAB, there's just so much to do that you certainly don't get bored. So
Yeah.
I liked it.
And then did you come here?
Then I went to work for a contractor
Okay.
that did tree planting.
Okay.
So I was a project coordinator there. And
What is tree planting like? Where and how are you doing that?
yeah, so they did, they specialized in like municipal or city contracts, which is kind of why I got it, since I'd been on the other side of doing that. So they plant for like La Crosse, St. Paul, Burnsville. They plant for different cities. MnDOT, they do a lot of the MnDOT construction projects. So I was organizing all that work and the crews, and yeah, it was good.
Did you have to travel a lot then?
I did. Yeah, it was a lot of checking on job sites kind of all throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin. So that part got a little old, which is why I ended up here.
Well, we'll get to that. What's like every day you might be driving hundreds of miles to check
Sometimes, yeah, it would depend. I mean, a lot of the time too, you're getting like a set of construction plans, and what the maybe engineer has ordered is not what's actually on the plan. So you're double checking a lot of plans. There's a lot of that kind of just logistics, making sure all the details were lined up. So.
But then you get a lot of free time in the car, and then you can listen to like books or podcasts, and then think to yourself, one day I might be on a podcast.
I never thought that, but I did listen to books and podcasts.
Okay, all right. So yeah, then what brought what was the what spurred you to apply here?
So I actually, the person who I replaced, I'm president now, at the time I wasn't, of Minnesota Society of Arboriculture. It's like our, if you ever heard of someone say like a certified arborist,
Yeah.
it would be the Minnesota chapter of that international group that it kind of promotes professionalism in forestry. And I met him through school, but also met him wanting volunteers for this group, pretty much needing people to help run this group. So he said, yeah, you should do this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'd been kind of working with them, and then he's like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving. Would you want to maybe work for Eden Prairie? He goes, it's really well-run city. Maybe you should think about it. I was like, oh, okay. I'll think about it.
Well, yeah. So we're talking about Jacob. And Jacob
yes.
was here for a couple years, and then he moved out west, right?
Yeah. Yes, he's a firefighter out west.
Firefighter out west, yeah. Like California, Oregon, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wasn't much of a pickleball player, but I think he's probably a pretty good forester and firefighter.
Yeah.
But I think I remember that when I met you on your first day, you had said that he had recommended the job or he kind of put the bug in your ear.
Yeah.
But I like that. Okay, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Did you do a little bit of research on the city?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, I dug in. And I mean, a lot of it, too, is, when you're getting interviewed, you can kind of get a feel for people as you're getting interviewed. And Jay and Matt seemed pretty A-okay. And I thought, all right, maybe this would be fun.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are. How long has it been now?
Going on year 3.
Year 3.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah.
What would be, what does a typical day look, probably no day is typical, right? But what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah.
And maybe it depends on the season, right?
Right, it
so
does.
maybe explain the different seasons in a typical day.
I guess I'll start with busy season, summer, when people remember, they have trees. Everyone forgets about them in winter. But, so in summer, I meet with a lot of homeowners. A lot of homeowners, residents have questions about their trees not looking good, dying for something or something like that. And so diagnosing tree health issues, or they get multiple bids on some work and are told, conflicting opinions. I'll go out and kind of give my 2 cents on a situation.
And these are all trees. I think people sometimes maybe don't process that we have you as a resource on any tree,
right.
Not just a tree in the city right-of-way or city park. Like, you're a resource for anybody.
Right. Yes. Yep. So I'll do that, a good amount. It's not, I'd say maybe 1 day a week I'm meeting with homeowners pretty much all day, going to check out different questions and make sure folks are kind of getting what's going on with their trees. And then, so I'll do that. And then I oversee seasonal interns who are marking diseased trees, Dutch elm and oak wilt trees. So I'll, get them trained in, make sure they're comfortable and confident in their roles. And then they'll go ahead and, do that, mark those trees. Oversee different contractors and apply for grants. Ideally, all grants that ever came out would be released in winter when things are slower, but it seems like a lot of them come out right when you're already super busy with everything else. I guess that's just life. But so I'll do, I say that's pretty typical in my summer.
So in the contractor work, can you talk a little bit about our, obviously there's all kinds of contractor work, but what made me think about what you said was our EAB program that we have as a city, how that works.
Yeah, so we are removing our ash trees ahead of getting emerald ash borer, the city trees. So the contractor work would be occasionally we're hiring contractors to help with that. And a lot of times when we're doing that, it's funded through different grant opportunities through either the Minnesota DNR or Hennepin County, or those are the two that we've gotten grants from most recently. So I would be setting up those bids and specifications and then having them go ahead and do that work. So,
and then people realize too that they could buy into the program that we have for their private removal.
For treatment especially. So treatment, we have the contract with right now Rainbow Tree Care that treats all the city ash trees that we're deciding to save, the healthy, well-placed trees. And they have reduced rates for residents, which is great. It lets residents pretty much save trees that they love in their yard at a reasonable cost. And knowing that it's being done by a company that's pretty reputable is, really helpful. So, so that's part of it. Setting up contracts like that would be part of it.
So do you remember, just putting you on the spot here, maybe the goofiest question that a resident asked you about their tree?
Yeah. There's a lot of them, Rick.
Just give me 3 or 4. Give me 3 or 4.
I would say, so the goofiest. Okay. They're aphids. Have you heard of aphids?
Is that
it's a little bug. Yeah, it's a little
really
bug.
small, right?
Yeah, and it's benign. It looks bad and it's messy, but it's not going to kill your tree. And I had someone call and and say there was like white stuff dripping all over their car and their whole, maybe it's happened to you in spring. Now that I say it, you'll probably notice it because it happens to my car every spring that I'll like park under my trees in my yard and they get all like, the white car gets all, it's like literally sugar water. But what it is aphid excrement.
Okay. I thought it was bird excrement, but...
So that's a different thing.
Okay. Yeah. Now this is good. Yeah. Okay.
We're learning. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like this clear, it's like a sugar water that drips. And this person called me and they were like, yeah, and I've been like, I touched it and licked it and it's sweet. And I can't, I just can't figure out, is it sap? Is it sap dripping from the tree? Which, I mean, it could have been.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but it could have been. And
no, it's bug excrement. Yeah. It's not maple syrup.
Yeah, that was a goofy one.
That's a tough one. So you had to break the news to this person. Mm-hmm. What they licked was not like sap.
Yep.
You had to tell them.
Like in general, though, don't lick things.
No.
If you don't know.
What is funny, though, because that is a big deal right now, though, people tapping trees, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's always been a big deal, but it's something that I've noticed more. Like, people can actually get their own kit to set that up to their tree, but that's different than the bug excrement. Yeah. That's a little bit different.
It is. So that was a goofy one.
That's a goofy one, yeah.
This one's maybe not goofy, but I'm always surprised by... people either like really don't know like what trees they have. They just know they're there and they like them or don't, but they don't maybe put a lot of thought in them.
Sure.
Or there's people who are like incredibly invested in their trees. And what I find always a bummer is like sometimes the confidence of like, I am sure that this is a white pine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Because you're going to have to break the news to them
that
again.
It's not. And they'll have like a long story of like, they bought the house and the white pine was planted by someone, and it's like they're very attached to this tree. I'm like, that's not. It's a spruce.
It's a spruce tree. Yeah, no, I mean, and that is more of like, you're right, not the goofiest thing, but just maybe like common misunderstandings because I can maybe identify 5-6 different trees myself, and I can tell a maple from an oak, but maybe I have a hard time telling different maples from other maples. And ash is not the easiest tree to identify to a layman like myself. No. So, but a white pine, though, I'm thinking of a birch tree, I guess, that when the trunk is the white bark, that's a birch tree, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. If that wasn't a white pine, what was it? Oh, spruce. Just a regular old spruce tree. Yeah. What do you mean? And you kind of shake your head like spruce trees are like weeds, basically?
I don't want to crush their long story they've been telling everyone and their neighbors about like this significant,
Yeah.
I mean,
so what do you do?
Sometimes I'm almost like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not, it doesn't really matter either way. It's like, oh, man, I don't know.
What am I going to do about my white pine?
I don't know if I have it in me today.
Yeah. No, so that kind of falls along common questions that you get, or I'm sure you get, like I said, a lot of emails, a lot of calls, and you are a great resource, but I enjoy hearing the strange stories. Talk a little bit more about invasive species and how people have to combat that or deal with that in their yard, kind of moving away just from trees, but all kinds of invasive species.
Sure. Yeah, probably. I mean, our most prevalent is, no surprise, buckthorn. Buckthorn is pretty much everywhere in the Twin Cities now, unless it's just not going to grow in a certain area. But anywhere that it can grow, if you're not doing anything with it, it's probably there. So that's a big one. I get a lot of folks calling with questions about how to manage buckthorn. You can manage it. I mean, you can get it under control. You just can't necessarily do it on a full landscape with every single different private property owner would have to get involved and be on board. But you can do it. So I get questions about that. A lot of that. Garlic mustard's a bigger one, but it's ground cover. So I don't think it's as noticeable until it's bad, and then it's more noticeable.
The big thing with buckthorn, isn't it, that not only do you need to kind of cut it off at the bottom, you need to then treat it as well, because it'll just grow back.
Yep. Yeah, and there's good resources online for how to do that. I mean, a lot of people too will go and buy just like Roundup and spray it on there, but it's usually not the right concentrate and stuff if you just get it at Home Depot. So there's good, the DNR has good stuff online about how to actually do that and have it be effective. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And I think the bummer about that is then people get burned out. You know, they try it, they go through, do all this work to get this invasive species out, and then they don't actually get it killed, and then it comes back worse, and then they're like, what, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got different groups of residents that help treat buckthorn in public areas. I mean, it's really hard to keep a handle on it in major conservation areas or city woods. So we have people that even help us out.
Right, yeah. AM Rotary has been taking on a project at Edenbrook. Wild Ones is their local Prairie Edge chapter has been doing work at Big Woods. I mean, before I started, they've been doing work many, many times a year. They'll go down there, and it's impressive the amount of work that volunteer groups can do. So that's a great resource.
Well, I think another thing, too, is, within the last decade or so, this appreciation for native plants, pollinators.
Right.
As a city, we've taken several pieces of public property, whether it's a fire station, a well house, and we've tried to do a little bit of that, too, to play our part. What do you think, what are your recommendations for what people should be planting?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for pollinators is you can always do native flowering plants in your normal landscaping. But if you have a part of your yard that you don't use and you're sick of mowing and sick of irrigating, that's really probably a great spot for a pollinator garden. And you can just seed with a native mix. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it. I usually recommend folks hire a contractor who does native seed installations. Yeah, it's a combination of native grasses and native flowers. If people are looking to plant something best for pollinators, really where they are hurting is early spring and late fall. So plants that bloom really early or plants that bloom late. So like an aster in the fall would be a good thing for pollinators. They kind of need that little bit of energy on the end of the growing season. In the middle of summer, there's more flowers for them to get food from. So
good. You're giving some good advice here. Is there anything else when you think about how people can best take care of their property? Any other thoughts?
Yeah. If you're not sure what trees you have, or if you're 100% sure that white pine is a white pine and it's really a spruce, maybe, I always just tell folks to, either call us and I can come take a look, or call a contractor with a certified arborist. A lot of them will come out and do it for free and just kind of give you an idea of what's on your property. I've had especially a lot of recently, unfortunately, had people call and say, well, I was certain I didn't have an ash tree. And it's, well, you have 10 ash trees. And now they have emerald ash borer, and this is a bummer, and well, if I would have known, so it's just nice to I think just be like every other part of your house and property, just kind of know what you have, because then from there you can make choices about what you want to do with your landscaping or not do, and at least
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I asked you this earlier when we're talking about ash trees, but just give people a flavor for how much we're doing. How many trees would you say we're taking out every year, and how many are we treating?
Sure.
City-wise.
Yeah, so we are taking out, I'd say 300 to 450 a year. And we are treating probably, depending on the year, 300 to 400. But the main thing to remember there is eventually, the removals end and the treatments continue.
Yeah.
So we're treating a total of about 1,000 trees, but we treat them on a 3-year cycle. So that number's, little.
Yeah, and I think when you talked a little bit about that when you were at one of the recent council meetings, and I think there were questions about, so many cities got into monoculture, so many oaks, so many ash trees, and I think you did a good job of explaining that, everyone is planting now a mix, because you don't know what's going to come next.
Right.
What's going to be the next thing that might attack the aphid, white pine bug that's going to come. So
that's a scary one.
that's going to be crazy. And it's going to think about how it's going to affect all the windshields on all the cars when that hits.
As no one starts licking things.
Things.
Keep it together.
But you can avoid that by planting many different species, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can at least decrease how many trees you're going to lose or how much, of an impact it'll have. I mean, to put it simply, if you have a maple, an ash tree, a spruce, and a birch, something comes that kills birch, you're probably pretty happy you don't have all birches on your house, on your property.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know, is there another one coming? There's
always something. Yeah, there's always something.
All right.
Yeah. There's Asian Longhorn beetle, which is...
You just made that up.
No, I didn't.
That's real?
The aphid
Asian
Eastern
beetle.
White Pine
that was
bug
fake.
you made up is fake. This one is a real one. Asian Longhorn beetle. Yeah.
Okay.
That one, maples, lindens, a couple others, it likes a lot. It hasn't... I'm not sure if they know yet if it's fully hardy enough to live in Minnesota, but it's made its way through Chicago.
Okay.
So pretty close. And then from the north, there's pine beetle, which you've maybe heard of. It's part of the reason the wildfires are so bad out west right now.
Okay.
It's killing all the pines, so then they're drying out, and then fires are going through there more. But yeah, so those ones are kind of on the horizon, but not. I mean, there's still the question mark of will they really take over in Minnesota? So
sure,
but
no, it's good to be thinking of the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of started out with asking a little bit about your background and how you got to be where you are, and you've given us some really good background on Eden Prairie and your work here. Maybe last couple minutes here, just talking about, what do you like to do when you're not our forester?
Yeah. Well, I'm always the forester. But
yes, day and night. I know.
I like, my family, my little family, husband and baby 9-month-old, we like to go hike on the North Shore a lot.
Sure.
Spear hiking trail, we've been quite a bit. No surprise, doing a lot of environmental type things. We camp a lot, we mountain bike, we spend a lot of time outside.
If you said I'm just so sick of the outdoors when I'm at work and when I'm away from work, I try to go to major busy urban areas without trees, I could understand that too. But.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that, especially when I was working outside more, it was like, okay, I'm done. I want to go in the AC and sit and watch Netflix. But
yeah. No, understandable. What do you... because you've obviously traveled a lot of the city, what's your favorite spot in Eden Prairie? What do you think is the most beautiful spot in our city?
I think Prairie Bluff Conservation Area as an environmental person is probably the coolest for me. It's just really, really unique. I mean, the state, before farming was mostly prairie, and now we're less than 1%, and that is an area that hasn't been tilled or turned. I mean, you can make something corn and then seed it and get it back, but it will never really have the unique rare plants, and there's a lot of state endangered plants and stuff in that little section of, well, it's not little, but section of area, land that we have. So I think that's really cool, just to be able to see something. So, I mean, really, we're getting pretty more and more urban as time goes on, and it's cool to have something that's so high quality and not, disturbed.
And this is where we make the plug, where we ask people to please not disturb it, because it's such a beautiful area.
Right.
It's one of the most beautiful photos you could get in the state of Minnesota. So people like to go there and have graduation photos or wedding photos, and unfortunately they walk out onto the endangered plants and grasses. So we say, please stay on the trail. So we keep it that way.
Yeah.
That's my little public service announcement.
No, it's good. We need that,
because we got signs out there, and we actually will give you a citation if you go out there.
Yeah.
We've had that problem, but
right.
I don't want to bring you down, but
no,
we want to keep it that way. It is a beautiful
keep
area.
It that way, right?
Yeah. So if you could get away for a week, where would you go?
I've always wanted to do an elk hunt in Montana.
Oh, okay.
I would probably, if I had like a solid week, I think we would try to do like a backpacking. I for the record,
You and your
I wouldn't
husband leave
shoot
the
an elk.
you and your husband leave the kids at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't shoot, and you would not shoot an elk.
I
You would-
wouldn't because they're so big that we probably would need both of us, and I'm more there for the ride. You know.
Yeah.
I just want to go and see. I don't know.
like pretend to shoot,
No.
not even shoot. But your
I
husband
wouldn't even
shoot.
bring a gun. Yeah.
Okay, so it more is like elk sightseeing, not elk hunting.
Yeah, for me
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to do elk sightseeing in Montana.
Yeah,
That would be
no,
my
that sounds
thing.
awesome. That's a beautiful area, one of the
Yeah.
most beautiful areas of the country.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So what else what makes for a great non-working day for you if you can't get out to Montana immediately?
Yeah. You know, I'm kind of boring. I just like hanging out with my family. We've got our little 9-month-old now who's keeping us busy.
Wow.
She just started crawling and, you know, having some resemblance here of a little personality. So I think she's going to be a handful. So that's my next challenge and pastime, I think, is parenting.
Yes, anybody that has a newborn or under the age of 1, that takes up a lot of time, thought, energy.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And that'll probably still be the case 25 years later, by the way.
Yeah, and maybe even harder then.
Yeah. Well, it depends.
It
It depends. No, Lauren, I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your background and the work you do for the city. You do a great job for us, and we appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you do. You've brought us some awards too, within the last year or two. Some city awards, and hopefully you're here for a long, long time. Thanks for coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.